Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, your guide through this 9-session Integrative Life Teacher Training series. In this class, we will undertake a major house cleaning of your mind to prepare it to be a clearer vehicle for partnership with your higher self, your core life messages. Now, let me be clear from the start of our mental house cleaning work that when I refer to core life messages or personal laws, I'm talking about the concept of you that you've created with your mind, not the essential you that is immutable and incorruptible. It is this latter essential you to which we are returning to be the master of your mind, rather than your mind's usurping the master role and being clueless of who you really are and why you are here, because of its fear-based obsession with survival. Now, there are countless books written on self-analysis and as many techniques derived on how to discover what makes your mind tick. That can take years in the unfolding. But let's keep this very simple and do an exercise that can reveal a great deal in just 15 minutes. Take handout 1, 15 minutes of uncensored thoughts. And when you're ready, set a timer or have another method of keeping time. Then, in section 1, write whatever you are thinking for 15 minutes without stopping or editing whatever comes to your mind. Now, this may not be as easy for you as you anticipate because we're so used to editing whatever we put out for public approval. No one is to see the contents of what you write but you. Have extra paper handy if you are writing longhand because you'll need it to complete section 1. Obviously, we think faster than we can write or type, so do the best you can to get all your thoughts down. Complete this now and come back to the video. Now, in section 2 of handout 1 are the instructions to put a plus sign by each thought in section 1 you consider positive and a minus sign by each one you consider negative. Try to rate each thought by which way it leans toward positive or negative. Remember, this exercise is for you, so not being honest with yourself just keeps perpetuating self-deception, which will undermine your ultimate goal of mastering your mind. When you have finished your rating, count up the total number of pluses and minuses, then divide this total into your total of pluses, which will give you a percent of thoughts you considered positive. Then divide the total of positives and negatives again into your total of minuses to give you a percent of thoughts you rated negative. The percent of positives and negatives should equal approximately 100%. Do this rating now and come back to the video. Notice your thoughts and feelings about your ratings. Now, this is not to shock or depress you if your percentages are not what you expected. They're meant to give you a more realistic picture of how your mind has been programmed by our culture and by ancestry. It has been quipped, we're all descendants of those who escaped the clutches of the tiger. Our job is to recognize our mental programming and to deal resourcefully with it, not be the victim of it. The default mode network, the brain's me center. When given nothing else to do, our brain defaults to thinking about the person it's embedded in. The constellation of brain areas that carry out this function are called the default mode network. The default mode network is like a scout, ranging about for prospective futures. It has a prospective bias. It's seeking out big picture strategies for what could be, depending on the person, their history, and their biological dispositions. That perspective could tilt toward worrying or hoping. A study carried out at Yale University found that mindfulness meditation decreases activity in the default mode network, also known as the monkey mind. Since mind wandering is typically associated with being less happy, ruminating, and worrying about the past and the future, it's the goal for many people to dial it down. The key is what brain science people call cognitive flexibility, being able to more freely choose your mental habits and have a greater agency in your cognitive phenomenon. Indeed, the peripatetic nature of the default mode network can be harnessed for creative thinking. Producing creative ideas requires a combination of focusing internal attention and controlling spontaneous thinking. The default mode network contributes to the more or less spontaneous generation of potentially useful ideas. Our greatest source of suffering isn't the default mode network, but when we get stuck in the default mode. Our work is to recognize the predisposition of how our brain is wired and take responsibility for how to most effectively use our minds to reprogram our brains in the direction of our choice. So, to truly have the power to adjust our life course, we must have the courage to challenge the false dominance of the mind that is driven by survival fears and restore the primacy of our Sacred Heart, which rules through the universal power of love. This is the core and driving principle of being an integrative life teacher. Holding you in my heart as fellow travelers on the road home, I send and receive blessings for our circle and all sentient beings till next class. Blessings in light and love.